week 1 in the new year. And I want to commend everyone last year who made it through a full year of podcasts. And those will be repeated. And you'll probably get notifications if you signed up for them for the full versions of my spiritual rants last year, which was keyed to the 1-year Bible. Now, this year, by the way, this is Jerry Rothhauser for Spiritual Rants. This year, I want to just center on one thing and go short once a week and cover just one major, maybe a new thought as you're reading through the Bible this year. Last year, those podcasts will be repeated and the daily blog will be reposted every day, but there is no notification for them unless my brother, who is like near genius, came up with something with his Yahoo. And so he can be notified, and you can too. If you have a my.yahoo.com account, and if you don't, then sign up, then you go to add content, and you can put in http://jerryrothhauser.com/feed, F-E-E-D. Or you could just put in http://spiritualrants.com/feed, when you find content. And then when you pull it up, I had to hit the return button on my Mac. I couldn't just hit the little search magnifying glass. I had it return. And then there's a place that has a big plus on it, and you hit plus, and then all of the recent blogs and even more can be found on your my.yahoo.com. Is that cool or what? It's cool for me, anyway. Here's what we're going to be talking about this week. I promised you it would be this. And if you're wondering, there's just a little discrepancy, it seems to me, between my 1-year Bible printed version and the online version, but it's within verses, so it's not a big deal, especially for what we're doing. So what I have this week, Genesis 1:1 through 18:19, Matthew 1:1 through 6:24, everything's going to be a 1:1, Psalm 1:1 through 7:14, and Proverbs 1:1 through 2:5. So those are your readings, and because the calendar is always a little bit wacky, last year we did, 8 days, because we had to, and then to make things even this year, since we're starting on January 1st, and every week after that, it'll be 8 days this week. The Beatles would be very happy about that. So you start on a Monday and on a Sunday. So January 1st through 7th. All right, got that? Housekeeping done. The house is clean. All right, now, what do I want to talk about? One thing a week. And I want to keep it within 15 minutes. Let's see if I can do it. Now, a few years ago, I went to a conference up in Chicago area, and they had different subjects, different speakers in the conference. The one I was interested attending, one of the ones I was most interested in attending, was why kids are straying away from the church. So I sat through about an hour of that lecture, and when it was done, I thought, hey, what a ruck. there's a lot of interesting information on creation and evolution, but I didn't know anything more about why kids are straying from the church. So you know me, of course. I raised my hand and I asked the question. And I was kind of irritated, actually. It was like, I really wanted to know why kids are straying away from church. And I asked my question, and here's the answer I got. The answer was that it was evolution being taught and a movement away from creation. That's why he gave the lecture, which would have been good if he had told me that, early on in the lecture or even later. But the more I thought about it afterwards, he's right. He was unbelievably correct. That's why, not only why kids are straying away from church, they were hearing things in school that didn't jive what they were being taught from church. So they go to church once a week, they go to school every day, and they're hearing from their science teachers, that amoeba or garbage grew into amoeba, they don't talk about that usually. And in fact, you can go to the Museum of Science in New York City, and they never say what the display is about, but you know what it's about. These crumpled up men and then getting upright over time. And you know what it's about. But it's insidious. And here's my new name for evolution, by the way. Evil revolution. If we start reading the Bible and you trust it at all, and you should, then you come up with God created everything. Where is there room for evolution? I don't know. Well, here. Okay. I'll concede this. And it's a major concession. And I don't mind, admitting this. Within a species, if you study science and species, within a species, yes, there's evolution. So within canines or, different fish, there are mutations and changes. However, here's the problem. Here is the gigantic problem. If you posit evolution on a grand scale, then you have to look for what's called a missing link. Scientists have been looking for the missing link for hundreds of years. In fact, my initial mentor as a Christian holds to a form of evolution and creation. It's called theistic evolution. I think it has a new name too, but whatever. It's the same thing. Melding evolution and creation doesn't work. And I had a dinner. Well, I didn't have a dinner. I went to a dinner, and my mentor was there from college, so a few decades on in time. And I knew that he held to that theory, and in fact, that very week, there supposedly was a found of the missing link. They find it all the time, and then you don't see it in the news again after that. I asked him about it, and he said, oh, yeah, I think they'll find a lot more. Well, they hadn't. They didn't find it then. That was a few years ago. There was nothing to substantiate it, and there hasn't been since, and there won't be, because God created everything. One of my, from my alma mater also, was the head of the science department, had said something that my wife had found online. So I contacted him, and we had an exchange back and forth about evolution. I asked him some questions. He had no answers. And then what he did, I couldn't believe it. He turned on me and started asking questions about the Bible. I thought, why would he do that? Science isn't really my area. Bible is. And so he was getting in my wheelhouse, as it were. And I thought I knew what wheelhouse meant, which I kind of did, but here's what a wheelhouse is: a sweet spot where you could hit a home run when the pitch comes your way and right where you want it. That's a wheelhouse, when you hit it in your wheelhouse. So anyway, he brought up how there were errors in the Bible. And so I said, okay, well, tell me one. I didn't hear from him for several months. And then I heard 3 that he gave me, and I answered them. They were real easy. Then I didn't hear from him again. He had no answers on evolution. He had no criticisms of the Bible. He had nothing. He was head of the science department of my alma mater. So why are kids straying from the church? Well, they're hearing something in school. In fact, I was visiting one of my favorite record stores, and the owner got into a discussion on evolution because it had come up with the science guy and the debate between him and a fellow named Ham. And so, of course, I took the side of creation. He took evolution. And here was his best defense. He said to me, "Are you telling me that I can't trust my 7th grade teacher?" I had to pause and let that sink in, because things that stupid usually don't come my way. Really? Not some famous scientist or anything like that. No, it's his 7th grade teacher. Well, maybe she got it wrong. Maybe she got it, this was in Muncie. Maybe she got it at Ball State. Whatever. Slight knock at the state college. Now, here's the thing. You may think, well, what's the big deal about creation and evolution? I've always heard it's okay. Well, here's the big thing. When it bears upon, say, medicine, when it bears upon politics, here's why I call it evil revolution. Because back at the time of creation, God created everything. That's what the Bible says. And science, by the way, is defined as the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of structure, behavior, physical and natural world through observation and experiment, which basically is based on repeatability. That's what I said to the head of the science department at my alma mater. When did you see creation? When did you see it repeated? I told him it's out of your area. If you're going to believe in evolution, you're in my area. Faith. Not only that, I've got all kinds of facts, I think, on my side as well that we won't get into. However, I do have this powerful quote, and it gets me within 15 minutes. I can't believe it. Here's a fella named Robert Jastrow. He wrote a book called God and the Astronomers. Now, why should we believe him? The book was printed in 1978. It's still as relevant as over 25 years ago. Why should we listen to him? Well, because he's a NASA scientist. So, he's not a maroon, right? He's a pretty intelligent guy. And he was an atheist. Oh, and goodness. All right, here's the quote toward the end of his book. For the scientist, who has lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountains of ignorance. He is about to conquer the highest peak. As he pulls himself over the final rock, he is greeted by a band of theologians who have been sitting there for centuries. Closing the book for emphasis. Why is it important? Well, here, the calendar for today, Smartest Things, kind of a cute calendar, by the way, says Camus, an atheist, said there is only one serious philosophical question, which is whether or not to commit suicide. That's what you got with evil revolution. It goes back to the fall. It goes back to Satan. It's poisoning minds, poisoning bodies in the area of health, and poisoning people spiritually. There you go. That's my one thing. That's my rant. Jerry Rothhauser, jerryrothhauser.com, spiritualrants.com. You obviously found the podcast, and I hope you'll be downloading again next week.